Ada and Chukwuemeka were the envy of their high school. Ada was a lively, confident girl with a charm that turned heads, and Chukwuemeka was the brilliant class president whose future seemed destined for greatness. Their love blossomed under the mango trees, where they often sat to plan their future. They went to the same university. At 27, fresh out of university, they tied the knot in a modest ceremony that brought the entire village together. Chukwuemeka's dreams were clear: to secure a prestigious government scholarship and study engineering abroad, and later use that opportunity to japa with his wife when he graduated from his master's. His intellect and charisma made him a favorite in the community, and many believed he was on the path to changing not just his life, but the fortunes of many around him. But Ada had her insecurities hidden behind her glowing smiles. She feared Chukwuemeka's rising star might lead him to a life where she was no longer the center of his world. As Chukwuemeka prepared for the scholarship interview, Ada's fears grew. His increasing popularity with the village elders, teachers, and even women in the community gnawed at her. She began to feel invisible in his life, her laughter dimming as he spent more time on his studies and public engagements. Every glance he gave another woman stung like a dagger, though Chukwuemeka remained devoted to her. One day, Ada overheard two women discussing how Chukwuemeka was too good for her and how he would likely find a more suitable wife abroad. That night, her fears crystallized into determination. She would not lose him, not to ambition, not to another woman, and certainly not to a wide world. She resolved to ensure that no force could separate her from the man she loved, no matter the cost. Ada heard whispers of a herbalist deep in the heart of the city, a man with powers said to bind hearts and bend wheels. Her grandmother had once warned her about such people, calling them harvesters of despair, but desperation drowned out her reason. Early one morning, she slipped out of the house and boarded a bus to the city. The herbalist's house was a cramped, dimly lit room at the back of a marketplace. The air reeked of incense and decay, and the walls were lined with shelves filled with jars of strange, bubbling liquids. The herbalist, a man with piercing eyes and a menacing smile, listened to Ada's plea. "You want to keep him?" he asked. "Then you must bind him to you. But know this, every choice has a price." Blinded by her obsession, Ada agreed, not knowing how heavy the cost would be. The herbalist handed Ada a small vial of dark liquid and a razor-sharp blade. "Add a drop of your blood to this liquid and then add it to his food every night," he instructed, his eyes gleaming. "He will never look beyond you." Ada hesitated for a moment, but the fear of losing Chukwuemeka overpowered her doubt. That evening, as Chukwuemeka sat at the dining table, excitedly discussing his plans to ace the scholarship interview, Ada prepared his favorite soup. Her hands trembled as she pricked her finger and let a single drop of blood into the vial and then into the pot. She stirred it, whispering a silent prayer that this act would keep him hers forever. As he ate, she watched him closely, her heart pounding in her chest with anticipation and fear. The effects were almost immediate. Chukwuemeka, who had been so consumed by his studies, began spending more time with Ada. He cancelled study sessions, skipped meetings, and even missed a crucial phone call about his interview. Ada was thrilled, believing the spell was working perfectly. For the first time in weeks, she felt truly seen by him. But there was something else, a dimness in Chukwuemeka's once bright eyes. He laughed less, his usual spark fading. He seemed distracted, as though a heavy fog had settled in his mind. Ada brushed it off, convincing herself it was simply the stress of his upcoming exams. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of a downward spiral. Ada began having vivid nightmares. Each night, she found herself wandering through the dark forest, chased by shadows that whispered accusations. "Why did you do it?" they hissed. She woke up drenched in sweat, her heart racing. During the day, she felt an eerie sense of being watched, even when she was alone. Chukwuemeka's condition worsened. He started forgetting small things, appointments, names, and even conversations they had just moments before. His vibrant energy was replaced by lethargy, and Ada's joy was replaced by fear, but she couldn't admit the truth to herself. She continued the ritual, hoping that things would improve, even as her guilt began to grow. Before we continue our story, hit the subscribe button right now, please, and turn on post notifications so that whenever we make a post, you'll be the first to get notified. Please subscribe before we continue our story. Have you subscribed? Let's continue. Nkem, Ada's former high school rival, had returned to the city after years of spiritual training. Now a priestess, she was renowned for her ability to sense and dispel dark energies. When she visited the village and saw Chukwuemeka, she immediately sensed something was wrong. His once brilliant aura was clouded, as though his spirit were shackled. Nkem couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that Ada was involved. Despite their history of rivalry, she decided to investigate. She began visiting the house more often, asking questions and watching Ada closely. The tension between the two women reignited, though this time it was not over school grades or popularity, but over something far darker and more dangerous. Nkem's visit to Chukwuemeka's home became more frequent. She paid close attention to every detail. One afternoon, as she sat with him in the living room, she noticed the faint scar on Ada's finger. It was barely visible, but looked fresh. Suspicious, Nkem pressed further. Ada, your cooking must be magical to keep Chukwuemeka so attached to you, she said casually. The comment made Ada freeze for a moment before forcing a smile. Later that evening, Nkem observed Chukwuemeka from a distance as he walked through the village, his steps slow and his gaze distant. His once commanding presence was gone, replaced by a frailty that alarmed her. That night, Nkem meditated, seeking guidance from her spiritual mentors. The visions she received confirmed her fears. Dark magic was at work. Nkem confronted Ada the following morning. Ada, something is wrong with Chukwuemeka and you know it, she said bluntly. Ada's face turned pale and her hands trembled. What are you talking about? She stammered, avoiding Nkem's piercing gaze. You've done something unnatural, Nkem accused. Whatever it is, it's draining his life force. If you care for him, you need to tell me the truth. Ada denied everything, but Nkem wasn't fooled. She decided to give her time, knowing that the truth would reveal itself eventually. Days later, Chukwuemeka collapsed in the middle of the market. Villagers rushed to help him, carrying him to his home. He was barely conscious, his breathing shallow. Ada was frantic, guilt gnawing at her, but she still couldn't bring herself to confess. Nkem arrived shortly after, her resolve hardening. Ada, you can't hide anymore. Whatever you've done is killing him. Cornered, Ada broke down in tears. She admitted to consulting the herbalist and using the blood potion to keep Chukwuemeka devoted to her. The weight of the confession hung heavily in the air, and Nkem's face darkened with anger and determination. Through her spiritual practices, Nkem discovered that the herbalist was not just a practitioner of dark arts, but a servant of a malevolent spirit that thrived on the energy of its victims. Chukwuemeka's declining health was not just the result of Ada's actions, it was part of a much larger scheme. The spirit had been feeding on Chukwuemeka's brilliance and vitality, using Ada's misguided love as a conduit. To break the curse and save him, they would need to confront the herbalist and the spirit itself. Nkem warned Ada that the journey would be perilous and that the cost might be greater than what she could imagine. Ada and Nkem prepared for the confrontation. Nkem performed purification rituals to cleanse Ada's energy, hoping to protect her from the spirit's influence. She also sought help from her spiritual allies, who provided charms and prayers for protection. Ada, though terrified, was resolute. She had caused this disaster, and she would do whatever it took to make things right. Chukwuemeka's unconscious form was a constant reminder of the stakes. She prayed silently, promising to save him, no matter the cost. When they arrived at the herbalist's house, the man greeted them with a smile. "Ah, Ada," he said mockingly, "I see you've brought a priestess to undo what you so willingly embraced." His words sent chills down Ada's spine. The herbalist revealed that Chukwuemeka's potential was a threat to the dark spirit. By keeping him bound and weakened, They ensured he could never fulfill his destiny. You were pawn, the herbalist sneered. But now, the game has changed. The herbalist offered Ada a deal. She could save Chukwuemeka by transferring the cross entirely onto herself. Take his place, and he will be free, he said with a wicked grin. Ada hesitated, the weight of the choice pressing down on her. Nkem intervened, refusing to let Ada fall into another trap. There is another way, she declared, but it will require courage and sacrifice. The herbalist laughed, warning them that defiance would only lead to destruction. Nkem and Ada engaged the herbalist in a spiritual confrontation. Nkem chanted incantations, her voice filled with power, while Ada stood behind her, clutching a protective charm. The herbalist summoned dark forces to counter Nkem's effort, and the room erupted into chaos. The battle left both sides exhausted. The herbalist retreated deeper into his lair, but not before warning them that the true battle would be against the spirit itself. Ada and Nkem knew they had only scratched the surface of the darkness they were up against. Following clues from the herbalist's lair, Nkem and Ada uncovered the location of the spirit's stronghold, an abandoned shrine deep in the forest. The journey there was treacherous, filled with traps and illusions meant to deter them. As they approached the shrine, the air grew colder, and an overwhelming sense of fear enveloped them. Nkem warned Ada to stay strong, reminding her that the spirit fed on fear and doubt. Together, they stepped into the shrine, ready to face the ultimate challenge. The malevolent spirit manifested as a towering shadow with glowing red eyes. Its voice echoed through the shrine, mocking them for their foolishness. "You dare challenge me?" it roared. "You are nothing but insects before my power." Nkem stood her ground, chanting prayers to weaken the spirit's hold on the physical realm. Ada, though terrified, found herself drawing strength from her love for Chukwuemeka. She refused to let the spirit win. The spirit unleashed waves of dark energy, testing their resolve. Nkem's protective charms shielded them, but only barely. Nkem discovered the spirit's weakness, a sacred artifact hidden within the shrine. It was a relic from a time before the spirit's reign, capable of severing its connection to the mortal world. The challenge was retrieving it without falling into the spirit's traps. With Ada's help, Nkem located the artifact, a glowing orb embedded in the shrine's altar. The spirit tried to block their path, but Nkem's prayers and Ada's determination proved stronger. Together, they seized the orb and prepared for the final confrontation. Armed with the sacred artifact, Nkem and Ada faced the spirit one last time. The orb radiated a blinding light, forcing the spirit to retreat. Nkem chanted the final incantation, calling upon the forces of light to banish the darkness. The spirit let out a deafening roar as it was consumed by the orb's light. Its form disintegrated, leaving behind only silence. The shrine began to crumble, and Nkem and Ada fled, their mission accomplished. After the spirit was defeated, Ada and Nkem returned to the herbalist's lair, only to find him waiting for them, enraged and defiant. The defeat of his master had weakened him, but his thirst for vengeance burned stronger than ever. "You think you've won?" he snarled. "This is far from over." The herbalist unleashed a barrage of curses, summoning the last remnant of his dark powers. Nkem and Ada stood their ground, determined to end his reign of terror once and for all. The battle was fierce, but Nkem's spiritual strength overwhelmed him. With one final incantation, she severed his connection to the dark forces he served, leaving him powerless and broken. As the herbalist lay defeated, he laughed bitterly and revealed a chilling truth. He was Ada's estranged uncle, banished from the family for his wicked deeds years ago. "You are more like me than you think," he taunted. "You used dark magic to get what you wanted, just as I have." Ada was horrified. The man who had manipulated her and endangered Chukwuemeka was her own blood. The revelation shook her to her core, but it also fueled her resolve. She refused to let his darkness define her. With the herbalist defeated, Nkem informed Ada that one final step remained to free Chukwuemeka completely. The curse could only be broken if Ada willingly sacrificed a part of herself. her life force, her memories, or her freedom. The decision rested entirely on her shoulders, a chance for redemption that would determine both her fate and Chukwuemeka's future. Chukwuemeka, still recovering, overheard the conversation. For the first time, he found the strength to voice his emotions. "Ada," he said, his tone heavy with pain, "you may love me, but love built on control and lies isn't love at all. I can't continue this marriage knowing what you've done. I need to move forward, free from all of this." His words struck Ada like a thunderbolt. She wanted to protest, to explain that her choices had been born of fear and desperation. But deep down, she knew he was right. Tears streamed down her face as she accepted the reality of her actions. In the end, Ada chose to sacrifice her memories of Chukwuemeka. She reasoned that, while she could not undo the past, removing herself entirely from his life would allow him the freedom to rebuild without her shadow looming over him. Nkem performed the ritual, and as Ada placed her hand on the sacred orb, her memories of Chukwuemeka dissolved into the light. When the ritual was complete, Ada stood tall, her gaze void of recognition as she looked at Chukwuemeka. He watched her silently, with a mix of sorrow and relief. Though her memories of him were gone, he felt the weight of closure. "I hope you find peace. I want to start anew and reclaim my life and dreams, unshackled from the chains of the past," Chukwuemeka said. Chukwuemeka's recovery was slow but steady. Though he had lost years of his life to the curse, his brilliance began to return. He reapplied for the government scholarship and was accepted. This time, he was determined to seize the opportunity and fulfill his dreams. Before leaving for his studies abroad, Chukwuemeka visited Ada one last time. He thanked her for saving his life. Ada, moved by his sincerity, wished him well, feeling a strange connection to him that she could not explain. Nkem became a beacon of hope, using her spiritual gift to help others avoid similar fates. She travels to remote villages and cities, educating people about the dangers of dark magic and offering her services as a spiritual healer. Her reputation grew, and she became a symbol of resilience and redemption. As months turned into years, Ada built a new life for herself. Though her memories of Chukwuemeka were gone, her heart retained an unshakable sense of purpose and strength. She pursued an education, eventually becoming a teacher who inspired her students with lessons about courage and integrity. Chukwuemeka, now a successful engineer abroad, often thought of Ada. He kept a photo of her in his wallet, a reminder of the woman who had saved him. Though they were worlds apart, he felt her presence guiding him in everything he did. Years later, Chukwuemeka returns to the city, now a renowned engineer with a mission to give back to the community that had shaped him. He founded a foundation to support young talent, ensuring that others could pursue their dreams without obstacles. During a charity event, Chukwuemeka and Ada crossed paths once more. Though she couldn't recognize him, their connection was undeniable. They struck up a friendship that quickly blossomed, as if their souls remembered what their minds had forgotten. As they walked together, Chukwuemeka smiled, believing that fate had given them a second chance. Though their past was lost, their future was full of promise, a testament to the enduring power of love and redemption. For everyone who is asking about how to create folktale stories like this and get their channels monetized in 30 days, like I got this channel monetized in exactly 24 days from scratch without ads or any paid collaboration, click the link in the description of this video or in the pinned comment to learn how to do same. Alright, so what did you learn from this story? Share it in the comment section.